Good afternoon, everybody. We're going to go ahead and get started here in just a second. Still see some people flowing in. All right, I think we're all logged in. We're ready to go. Thank you, everybody, for joining us for the CUCSA Town Hall. And we were going to kick things off today with Dennis McIver. I'm going to kick it over to you for the first couple slides.
Okay, thank you very much. And we did create a slideshow, and I'm going to go ahead and set that up for sharing now. That may not be it. Let's try that one more time. And okay, hopefully everyone's able to see our slideshow okay. And let's go ahead and start with a quick introduction, okay? I am Dennis McIver. Pronouns are he, him, and his, and I'm over at UC Riverside. I'm chair of CUCSA, and I have nearly 7 years of experience. And so I'm going to pass it over to John to say hello. Go ahead, John.
Hello again, John Bodenschatz, CUCSA chair-elect. At UCI, I serve as the Director of Finance for the School of Humanities and 27 years of service. And going to go ahead and pass it on to Jen.
Good afternoon, everyone. Jen Bowser. I'm from UC San Diego, where I'm a Sustainability Engagement Manager. I have almost 8 years of service next month, and I'm currently serving as Operations Officer for CUCSA this year.
All right, fantastic. And John is going to serve as our host for this, so I'm going to pass it back to him really quickly. But the picture that you see here is from our most recent meeting at UC Irvine, and we're very grateful to UCI Staff Assembly for all of their work with setting everything up, and it was a really good conversation. So, John, go for it.
Okay. So we'd like to start off with our land acknowledgement, and I'll start by reading the acknowledgement here. The Council of UC Staff Assemblies, CUCSA, recognizes that our service occurs on the unceded territory of the indigenous peoples of California, and that these lands were and continue to be of great importance to them. Every member of our community has and continues to benefit from the use and stewardship of these lands. With respect and gratitude, we acknowledge and make visible our relationship to the original caretakers. We further recommend use of the following resources to better understand the Indigenous history of our state. And there's a couple links there that are really interesting, and I recommend you take a look at them. Next slide, please. So this is, we'll cover our Zoom etiquette. Obviously, we're all very familiar with how Zooms work, but it is a Zoom room. You're welcome to leave your cameras off. Please leave your microphone muted during this event. This meeting will be recorded and posted to CUCSA social media, and Jen's going to go ahead and drop a link there in case you want to either share this or review anything in the future. Questions will be answered towards the end of the presentation, and at that time to ask, please use the raise hand button. Next slide. So with this, I'm going to go ahead and pass it back over to Dennis.
Great. Thank you, John. And just to give you a sense of what our agenda is going to be for the day, we'll start by giving you some historical understanding of what CUCSA is. We are also going to share a general update related to our most recent Regents presentation. We're then going to dive into our overarching priorities for the year and also tell you a bit about our work groups. And then we did have a little bit of homework we've created for everyone. And so we're really excited to be able to engage with you regarding some questions that we have. So everyone put your thinking hats on. But let's go ahead over to the next slide. Let's start by discussing what CUCSA is. The thing I will tell you before getting too deeply into this is I've heard it pronounced as CUCSA and CUCSA. This is a very contentious question as it relates to the delegation. Either or is fine. But CUCSA stands for the Council of UC Staff Assemblies. It was established in 1974 and it was chartered in 1975. There are delegates from every location in the UC, and that includes the Berkeley Lab, as well as Office of the President, as well as Agriculture and Natural Resources. What we attempt to do is work with system-wide human resources on matters related to policy covered staff, as well as some broader issues that relate to all staff. One of the key pieces of this is a quarterly meeting that we hold at assorted locations throughout the UC. Our most recent one was last week at UC Irvine. I'm excited that we'll be traveling also to UC Riverside in December, as well as UC Merced in March. And then we'll be heading up north to UC San Francisco in June. The other piece that we have been doing is advocating for broader changes that help to influence matters for all staff throughout the UC. And a couple of our key highlights was advocating for the creation of the staff advisor to the Regents position. In fact, our current staff advisor to the Regents, Priya Lakareddy, is actually a CUCSA alumni delegate. And we also have worked in the space of paid family leave. We also share results related to the staff engagement survey, which I'm sure many of you are familiar with. But one of the biggest things we've been pushing for recently has related to pay increases. And we've had many conversations with the Board of Regents as well as with the Office of the President to make sure that our staff in the policy covered space continue to receive adjustments to their pay. And it's work that we're really pleased to be able to do. So let's talk quickly about the most recent opportunity we had to speak with the Board of Regents. I should add that during this year, we had the opportunity, thanks to our immediate past chair, Crystal Petrini, to address the Regents directly back in January. That is available for viewing online, and so happy to share that with anyone interested. But in July, we gave a summary of some of the things that we were doing as a delegation last year. And specifically, we talked about our two key work groups, one related to best practices for the staff engagement survey, and the other related to anti-racism and the ways that we can continue to engage in that space. We also touched on our priorities for the upcoming year, and I'm happy to tell you we're going to share a bit more of that with you right now. So what are those priorities? We can go ahead and very quickly talk about those. The key one that we are aware of that we've been working on relates to retention. We are aware that the matter of retention has impacted all of our locations in different forms, and we wanted to do a really deep dive regarding what are the things we can do as an organization to advocate for better practices overall throughout the UC for staff, so that way we can keep them. We know that in many cases, staff function as the backbone of the university, and yet we also know that there's a high volume of vacancies right now. And so we wanted to encourage some best practices all around that can help to improve that. We're looking at this specifically through three different lenses. One relates to wellness and the staff experience. One relates to compensation. And then the final one relates to career advancement. And the reason why is because we believe that all of these play a bit of a role in an experience for a staff member. And so we have three different work groups that are looking at retention through these lenses. And we hope that we can provide an all-encompassing view of how we can best address this issue. The other piece we've been thinking a lot about this year that we formed a work group for is our strategic plan, because CUCSA has the gift and sometimes the challenge of having institutional memory that cycles every other year because our delegates have 2-year terms. And we wanted to build more of a framework that can be used over the next 5 years. And so we are engaging with a lot of different partners on terms of what should our priorities be as an organization? So that way we can have a really good plan for when John becomes chair and whoever would step up over the next few years to do the same. So it's really just about charting our course in the most thoughtful way possible. We are all very much passionate about making sure our local staff assemblies are empowered as well. I'm a past president of UCR Staff Assembly. John is current chair of UCI Staff Assembly. Jen is a past chair of UCSD's Staff Association. And we know that there's a lot of local things we could be doing to support our staff assemblies, whether it's engaging in their events or providing some best practices and tools so that way our local boards can thrive. And one of the ways we did that is through a monthly series of chats that we have called CUCSA chats. And it's all about the staff leadership experience to make sure that our local board members have the tools needed in order to thrive in the position, because we want it to be positive and impactful. And so we're going to continue to find ways to give those tools and that support to our local boards because they're doing tremendous work. We will also, of course, continue to advocate for matters related to advocacy before the legislature and for the entire UC, because we recognize that we want to continue to operate in that space and to make sure that our voices are heard when it comes to helping move the UC forward. And then the last one is that in 2024, CUCSA turns 50, and that's a really big deal. And we wanted to start thinking about how do we want to celebrate that? I do see a few alumni delegates, 1 or 2 past chairs as well. So we're looking forward to having that conversation both within our alumni space, but also system-wide. So that way we can make sure that this is celebrated as the momentous occasion that it is. And on that note, I'm going to pass it over to John and try to catch my breath.
Thank you, Dennis. That's a lot of work. And so to help with all of this work, we did break up the retention component. Obviously has three, and then also the strategic plan and IO, internal operations. For retention, we have one covering total compensation, one work group, and that's being chaired by Nathan McCall. And then we also have career advancement, chaired by Jeremy Brooks, wellness and staff experience by Shira Menard. And then the CUCSA strategic plan is being chaired by, work group is being chaired by Jeremy Thacker, and the internal operations work group is chaired by Jen Bowser. Next slide, please. So in an effort to try and provide some direct feedback to the retention work groups, we asked them to provide us with a couple questions that we can ask everybody here and hopefully get some feedback about this so that they can take that back to their work groups, and that might help shape their direction that they take the work group in. And this, I think, and I would like to think that this continues to be something that we do in this space, because it is so helpful for the delegates to hear directly from colleagues on these matters. So the first off, this is just going to be a very open Q&A-ish type discussion going over these questions. So I welcome anybody who has a comment or has a thought about any of these questions to go ahead and raise your hands. I'll go ahead and start off with the first one, which is, how does your campus or department support your overall well-being? Any direct feedback on that? I can say at UCI, we do have a wellness and somebody in our HR group that does do wellness, and they have a lot of different programs, from certain support with regards to our mental health well-being, also for dependent care. They have a number of different programs going on, and we're interested in hearing what other programs are you finding helpful in your campus to support your well-being. Go ahead and pick another one here. What about your current compensation structure that makes you... Okay. So Kelsey says that Berkeley has a great wellness program and EAP. So employee EAP. Kelsey, what's the employee assistant program? Thank you. Very good. So we'll move to the next one. What about your current compensation structure makes you want to stay in the UC system? So for this, I think that they're looking for, obviously there's the direct compensation of our pay, but there are other means of compensation. As we consider total compensation, you have the benefits, you have maybe the wellness program really helps you out. Maybe, what about it? So they're really looking for, I feel, a way to maybe accentuate certain positive things that certain campuses are doing. So one of the great things about CUCSA is the opportunity to bring together so many different people from so many different campuses that have different ideas and different ways of doing things that we can glean from them and hopefully bring them system-wide potentially. So Alexia says that, oh, we got a couple good ones coming in here. Hold on one second. Let me scroll back up. San Diego just hired an employment wellness program manager. Excited to see how that impacts your campus. Well, congratulations, that sounds great. Hopefully you start seeing some really good programs rolled out. I know ours are well appreciated here. And then Anna mentions that UCLA has a wellness program run by the school side and another on the health side. Okay. Our staff assembly board has a VP of wellness position that helps bring wellness programs to staff as well. That's great, and nice to hear that you have a robust one serving both sides of the house. We just started that at UCI. We do have a wellness. We did have a both, an umbrella over both our health and our campus. But Kelly Shedd was brought from UCLA, sorry UCLA, over to run our UCI Health Wellness program. And the wonderful things that they're able to do specific to our health has already been noticed and been appreciated. And I will say that both our wellness coordinators on campus do come monthly to our staff assembly meetings to provide us feedback on what they're doing and what options are out there as far as supporting wellness on our campus. And lastly, we'll go ahead and say, what career advancement opportunities would you like to see at your location? I'm throwing the third one out there. Lachey, so good to see you. So Lachey remarks, last year A&R offered up to $50 reimbursement for anything related to wellness. It was first come, first serve. Yeah, we got another one in. It was first come, first serve for a select number of individuals. Several employees used the funds towards purchase of fitness trackers, i.e. Fitbits and Apple Watches. That's great. Lucine mentions on a department level, the Department of Anesthesiology and Perioperative Medicine at UCLA has a dynamic wellness committee with several pillars, subgroups, physical wellness, work-life balance and integration, emotional wellness, environmental wellness. Jedi, I want to hear about Jedi. That sounds really cool. I don't know what that means. And Rachel, I'll get to you in just one second. Let me get through some of these chats. LBNL has a health and wellness website. That's great. Berkeley Lab partners with UC Berkeley's EAP and wellness program. Rachel, go ahead, please.
I wanted to get to the career advancement opportunities one. Is it time for that?
Please, go ahead.
This is, so I'm from Berkeley, and I'm on a job family that has 5 levels to it. I'm at level 4, and I think it's objectively clear that I'm a level 5. That's the kind of work that I'm doing, and kind of the highest high person in my organization doesn't like level 5s, thinks that that's not appropriate somehow, even though it's part of our job category. So for me, it kind of says like, we don't want excellent people here, or we don't reward excellence or something. It's pretty big disincentive for me. I wonder if anyone else is experiencing that.
Wow. Any thoughts or feedback to Rachel's comment?
I can't tell if Desiree is raising her hand to comment on what Rachel was saying.
Yeah.
Because I don't want to cut in front of Desiree.
Sure, we'll go Desiree, then you, Nathan.
Sure, great. You know, I hear you on that too. I definitely, you hear things in different departments where they say nobody gets on their annual review the highest level. And even having departments that say, when you get that highest level, there has to be incredible justification for it. And in my mind, I totally hear what you're saying as far as I don't want middle of the road employees in my department. I want everybody to be at that excellent level, right? So I think you're not unique in that, and that's definitely something that we should continue to look into this year.
That's a really interesting comment. Nathan, I'll take a second here. I will share that at UCI it was probably about 3 or 4 years ago now, they kind of recalibrated all the performance evaluation on our campus. And yeah, they want people to be solid performers. They wanted the minority, a strict minority, to be those 5s in our case. Nathan, go ahead.
Rachel, I don't know which campus you're calling in from. And what the structure of HR, centralized or not, exists. But there, depending on the campus and how it's structured, there should be mechanisms in place where you can have an appeal. On our campus, it's called a desk audit. So if you think you are misclassified and your conversations with your supervisor are unsuccessful in getting that evaluated, you can reach out to the centralized compensation unit and ask for a desk audit. If that desk audit doesn't yield what you're looking for, then there might be other ways to escalate. But have you already gone through that process, or is that process even available on your campus?
I'm at Berkeley. I'm not aware. I haven't heard of that before, so I'll check it out. Thank you for the idea.
Yeah, no worries.
Desiree, did you have an additional comment?
No, I'm good. Thank you. Sorry.
No worries. Thank you. So it seems JEDI is Justice, Equity, Diversity, Inclusion. That's an awesome acronym, I'll just say. So Ryan writes in, UCSC is hiring a bunch of absentee coverage custodians and more supervisor and admin supports. Ryan, I don't know if you, do you want to expand upon that a little bit?
Sure, I can expand. So our department has a lot of absenteeism just in general as part of the culture. We have a huge staff too. That's a major part of it. And we've had complaints that it falls under too much work for the coverage people, which are usually lead custodians, to cover multiple areas, which it lowers the level of service that we're able to provide. But we have hired a whole bunch of people who are essentially not assigned to areas that will be available for this type of absentee coverage. And then we also will be hiring more supervisors to limit the amount of direct reports that supervisors will have, current supervisors, as well as admin support so that the current supervisors have less desktop work, computer work, and can be out in the field providing a higher level of direct supervision. And that's never happened since I've known in this whole campus.
Okay, thank you. There was a comment in the chat also from Tiala with regards to under career advancement, there should be a broader education tuition reimbursement benefit. And I wanted to call out Greta. I don't know if it was you, but did you serve on one of the committees, one of the work groups that covered tuition reimbursement previously?
Yes, we did a work group that looked at tuition reimbursement for the children of staff and faculty, dependents of staff and faculty. And it was something we gathered a lot of information about other universities in the US that offer this, like Cal State. At the time, there just wasn't an appetite from the faculty for this because they were very focused on compensation at the time, and they were worried if they looked at this, that it was going to take away from that. And so they made the choice not to support it, and it didn't really go forward without any support from faculty.
Yeah, and I think
if that's the kind of reimbursement we're talking about.
Yeah, and I think that can bleed both for, I mean, it almost goes under total compensation and career advancement, right? It can live in both places. Definitely a topic that has come up, and likely one I think that will be thought of as we move forward. And one that is, frankly, I mean, not only does it come up in this particular area, but I hear it from colleagues here on campus. And why don't we do like X institution and cover tuition for families or for ourselves? Good question. Thank you. So Roberta talks about UCSD as a faculty staff assistant program. The faculty and staff assistant program is a confidential EAP, which helps in-state campus faculty and staff, all postdoctoral and visiting scholars, UCSD emeriti and retirees resolve concern affecting personal well-being and or job performance. Great. We've seen seconds of the JEDI explanation that Nathan gave. And we're talking, Desiree talks a little bit more, touches on the whole idea of the reviews. Just seeing if we have any direct comments to the questions. Thank you for the links, Anna. All right, with that, I think we can go ahead and move to the next slide. Thank you for your feedback. We will have a feedback form. So if you have an opportunity to think a little bit more on some of those questions, and we have a couple more in there, we really encourage you to provide that feedback in the form that Jen is tossing into the chat. That'll give us we'll be able to pass that back on to the work groups and provide them some of that insight from you, their colleagues. So for the Q&A, we have already kind of led into some of this, but go ahead and use the raise hand if you have any questions you have about CUCSA as a whole, about our ambitions for this year, the goals we have set, and our priorities. Chat here. Hearing none, I'm going to go ahead and kick it back over to Dennis. Oh, Tiala, go ahead, please.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
It's Tila.
Tila, sorry.
And I was just curious, I'm new to this, but I was curious as to what extent your let's see, decisions you make or the ideas that you generate turn into policy changes within the UC system.
Dennis, you want to take that?
I will try my best, and thank you very much for the question. I do think that when it comes to these matters, in many cases, it does lead to us trying to take action and call for it, but with a lot of this work, it's also the combination of opportunity and folks who are in leadership at that exact moment in time. There are some things that as an organization, we have made the call for extended amount of time. So in fact, if we look at even the history of our work groups, a lot of the conversations we're having, we've seen a few different iterations of it throughout the history. But a big part of it is it doesn't match with what the sentiment is of UC at that moment. For example, when it came to the parental leave policy, that took a number of years before it was able to become actionable. So I think that's one of the reasons why, as an organization, we're trying much harder to be much more purposeful in terms of setting a course and being prepared to go in for the long haul with the work. So my answer would be that yes, but in many cases, it's the preparation on our part, but it's also historically, does it match with what there is an appetite to address? Fortunately, I think at this moment in time, retention is a very broad and very important topic, not just within the UC, but even on a national level. So this strikes me as a really good opportunity to have a deep engagement on that. But to answer your question, sometimes it does add up to stuff, but other times it may require us to have continued discussions around it. But I think the key piece is that we remember it and that we remain resolved to continue to call for it. And the last piece I'd add is this is something that I even observed when I was president of my local staff assembly, that there were some things we pushed for and it just took time. But the key is to be patient, to be listening, and to be prepared to engage. And I think that's something that we as a delegation are very eager and excited to be able to do.
Thank you.
Any last questions? All right, Dennis, the floor is yours.
Okay. And we recognize that this is the first meeting of the year. We wanted to give a really good overview of where we are and where we're headed. I do want to give you a heads up on a couple of things that are going to happen. For our future town halls, you'll have an opportunity to learn more about specifically where the work groups that we discussed before, where precisely they are at that moment in time. And so we've talked about the work groups and what they're doing, but during our future meetings, they'll be giving shorter presentations to talk about here's the ground that we covered. So I think there's going to be some value to there. That way, you know exactly how we're looking at it as an organization. I do want to acknowledge you that there is some significant overlap between our groups. And I think our work groups are very mindful of that. And they're very, very purposeful when it comes to how they're approaching it. And I think it's going to lead to some really good and rich discussions. So hopefully for our future town halls, you'll have the opportunity to see that. And we did add that survey. I want to really encourage everyone to please take advantage of that. We want to get your feedback as much as possible. And the other piece that I would add is this work does add up to things, because I've been a member of CUCSA for since 2020, and we've been able to do some really good things. I think the pay increases that Lachey mentioned in chat is probably one of the key ones, as is the parental leave policy. And so some of the work we have, it does add up to a lot. And if you're coming to these meetings and engaging, you'll have a chance to see this is what's on our mind, but even put things on our radar that perhaps we should be thinking about. So we do consider this to be a two-way conversation. So I hope that everyone looks at it that way. And in the spirit of engagement, I want to provide a couple of other events that are coming up. So we'll go back and do one more share screen. So here's where I say thank you to everyone for attending. But our next couple of events you'll want to keep in mind are going to take place over the rest of this quarter. The first one is happening in 2 weeks, and I'm pleased to tell you that Aaron Bouchon, who's been a longtime mentor and friend of mine, and I was also a CUCSA alumni delegate, is going to talk about staff leadership and time management, because we all know that we all have our own different tasks we're responsible for, and it's important to be able to balance that with all the other challenges of our job in life. And Aaron's the best time manager that I've ever met. And so I'm sure he'll be able to give a really rich discussion about that. That's going to be happening on the 28th, starting at 12:05. So please be sure to register for that. If you know someone that's interested, I strongly encourage you to share it with them as well. And these conversations, they're open to everybody. If you have that interest, you're welcome to participate. So please don't feel as though it's only limited to the select people here. It's open to whoever wants to check it out. Looking towards December, we are going to hold our next town hall in December 7th at 12:05, and that will be angled around the ground that we've covered in the time since then. We will be able to hear about our upcoming work groups as well as any of the other things that we're taking some action on. And you'll really just have a chance to engage and see what we're doing to step up and speak for staff in this space. If you're also interested in things we're doing between these meetings, I strongly encourage everyone to take advantage of all the different media that we have. We are on everything from Facebook to LinkedIn to YouTube. All of our things are recorded and held online, so you can check it out later if you want to see me stumble through some words. But please engage, take advantage of our link tree. It has everything there, including our new quarterly newsletter, CUCSA Corner, which spotlights things happening at our local campuses, as well as upcoming events. So you have every opportunity to engage. I strongly encourage everyone to take advantage of that. And if there are things we can do to help, or there are things you think that we're missing out on, then you're welcome to share that as well. And there are means to communicate with us that way. So that's what's coming up. If you'll please register, please check out our social media. And if you have any questions, let us know. But otherwise, I'm happy to end the meeting at 12:37 and give everyone some chance to grab a bite to eat. But thank you for showing up, and thank you for everything that you're doing for UC. You matter, and we're going to make sure that we do everything we can to remind folks of that. So thanks so much for your time, and have a good rest of the day.